to the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
This is Offscript
on Dubai Eye 103.8.
It is 22 minutes after 5 o'clock on your Wednesday afternoon, and I'm delighted to say we are joined all the way over from Houston, Soane, by one of the world's leading aesthetic plastic surgeons. This is a story I believe that you and Rog discussed a couple of days ago.
Yes, we are joined by Dr. Henry Mentz. And the reason is because Dr. Mentz is one of the leaders in what's called ab etching.
Hello.
Now, ab etching, you may be thinking, what is that? But of course, we've talked about people who have tattooed six-packs onto their torsos. Well, this is actually using plastic surgery to create a six-pack. So at this point, let's say good morning to Dr. Henry Mentz.
Good morning from Houston. How are you?
Very good, Dr. Henry, and thank you so much, first and foremost, for joining us on the show. We're very intrigued by, and perhaps potential interested customers when it comes to ab etching. I can speak for myself and Chris, but maybe we could start for the uninitiated. Can you explain, maybe for the layman, exactly what it entails?
Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you for having me on the show. I'm honored. And abdominal etching, we began with in the early 1990s. It was a patient who was actually quite fit, but couldn't get his six-pack to show. And there are lots of guys who have really strong muscles, but their muscles are more bound together and there's no tendinous inscription or separation between the muscles, so they can't ever get their six-pack to show. So he came in, and it was at the initiation of liposuction early on. And most of the time at that time, we were doing liposuction for debulking, taking off saddlebags off of hips, taking off love handles off the back, but not really creating detail on the structure. And so what we did was we inscribed or etched in the linea alba, which is the depression in the middle, that little bit of cleavage right smack in the middle, and then defined the outside of the rectus muscles, and then the tendinous inscriptions, which are the six-pack, the separations that are horizontal, we etched in as well. So we removed more fat from the areas that we wanted to show, and we left a little bit of fat over the muscle belly, so it looked like the muscle was more developed. And it worked quite well. We presented that back in 1992 at the Paris show and also the New York show, and it was received there with some skepticism, but naturally, because it was a new idea. But since then, liposuction has evolved tremendously and has become more than a debulking operation. It's become an operation more for definition, where we create better definition on the abs, on the lower back from behind, on the chest, because a lot of guys get more rounded breasts, really, and they want to look more linear and quadrangular, so the muscle looks more developed. And so in those areas, we've created a different operation, and an operation that allows for better muscle definition. And so guys are coming in who are fit, who are working hard to try to get their muscles to show, but don't quite have the muscle definition really as a part of their genetics, and it's not really showing very well. So we can help them out and do these operations and create better definition, and it works well. Since then, this operation has taken off really in the last 15, 20 years or so, and it's become quite popular on the East Coast, the West Coast, and really around the world. South America, they do a ton of it, and really wherever it's kind of warm, if you're going to be on a beach or if you're going to take your shirt off, you get a lot better value from this operation.
Well, Dr. Mentz, let me ask you, because you've talked about people who are already quite muscular, but they're just looking for that definition that they can't have. Well, I have to say, my colleague here, Christopher McCarty, has been bemoaning his dad bod for the past sort of 4 to 5 months or so. Now, does this work with somebody who's maybe not so muscular? I mean, would you not be able to tell if it's a little bit softer rather than that rock hard muscle, even with all that definition you're creating?
Right. So no, that's a great question. And the reality is there's a spectrum of detail that we can provide. So for patients that are heavy in the shoulders, strong muscled. They have big biceps. They have a big chest. Those are patients that we go at with a little bit more vigor and create more visual anatomy. For patients that are, let's say, have leaner arms, they have a smaller chest, and that the operation would look awkward if we created a very articulated six pack. It just looks out of place. Those are patients where we do, I call it a soft etch, where we just detail it a little bit so that it shows, and you sort of unveil some of their natural anatomy without having it look artificial. And yeah, there's a spectrum of etching that we can do that works quite well.
Okay.
And if they're, depending on what Chris looks like, if he wants to take his shirt off,
I can tell you.
But we can take a look.
Maybe we should do an impromptu inspection, perhaps.
I'm game.
I'm game.
I am 6'5", Dr. Henry. I am very lean. It's fair to say there ain't much bicep on me, and yeah, it's fair to say I've got a one pack. So there's plenty there for you to get to work with.
Well, you're like most guys, and if you're lean, that looks great. And that's a great body, and it's a body that will look great when you're 80. And I have done patients 30 years ago where I've done detail, especially on guys like you that just don't quite have that detail that shows, and we can etch it in, and over time, you gain 5 pounds, you lose 5 pounds. You gain 10 pounds, it wears quite well. And that, in fact, when I did this presentation 30 years ago, was one of the great anxieties in doing this kind of detailed operation, is how do people fare over time? And I would say, in particular, and compared to liposuctions we're doing on women in their 20s, and they go through pregnancies, they go through thyroid issues, they go through menopause, an assortment of lifestyle changes, those patients don't do near as well as the guys I've done 30 years ago, with less of that, those lifestyle challenges. So guys do exceptionally well. And I've probably had, maybe in 3,000 etches, maybe just 4 patients who've gained a lot of weight, with an assortment of issues, where we've just had to soften the six pack. We just take a little bit more fat out and it looks right. But that's pretty unusual in plastic surgery, where you have that low of a risk of revision. And so I think that the operation fares quite well. It's a great operation for guys to do. And I think this is why this operation has really taken off in the last 20 years. People are very body conscious. And with TikTok and social, everybody wants to take their shirt off, including you, Chris.
Yeah, well,
Chris is currently researching flights to Houston as we speak.
I am looking at flights to Houston, Doctor. You may well see me popping into your practice in the not too distant future, because it's fascinating.
It really is. And just a final one from me, Doctor, just while we've got you, and it would be remiss of us not to ask about the wider world of cosmetic surgery. And you alluded to TikTok and the way society has moved in being more body conscious. What have been some of the most noticeable and some of the most stark trends in the industry in the last sort of 10 years or so?
Robbie, it's a good question. And really the explosion in plastic surgery has happened as a result of COVID, because people are at home, they're on virtual, and they see themselves, they see their necks, they see their noses, they see their faces. They're spending a lot of time taking pictures of themselves. And there are lots of little programs on your phone that can make you look better. And I've got a lot of patients coming in and with their phone, and they say, "Can you make me look like this picture? Because this is what people think I look like now." Anyway,
yeah, I've gone too far with the filters, basically.
Yeah, that's right. But it's really taken off, in part because people are at home. They've spent a little less money on vacations, and they're spending more money on themselves. And so those operations like liposuction and facelifts and breast surgery, they have really exploded, and the plastic surgery world has expanded maybe 40 to 50% since COVID. There's been an explosion, so we're staying terribly busy in Houston, and I think it's elsewhere in the country and on the planet as well. I think even in Dubai, those guys have to be tremendously busy. That's a good thing for us. When we're busy, we develop new practices and new techniques, and all of it is momentum forward. And that's a great thing.
Well, it's fascinating stuff. And it's fantastic to have you on our show. We really appreciate you taking the time. And for those tuned in who've been intrigued by this, I think you've got a website. Is that, am I correct in saying that, Doctor?
Well, that's right. It's Dr. Mentz, drmentz.com. And please come visit our site. Come to Houston, come visit, and Chris will give you a special rate if you come on in, okay?
Brilliant.
I'll be there. Don't you worry.
Dr. Henry Mentz, thank you so much for taking the time, and fantastic to have you on our show over here in Dubai.
Robbie, thank you very much. It was an honor.
Brilliant stuff.
What a gentleman.
Brilliant stuff. That was really, really fascinating.
Great stuff.
Great insight.
I'm not joking. The fact he's offered a Scotsman a potential reduction in fee means I'll be there knocking on his door.
Yeah, you just need to up those air miles and you might be able to make it all the way over to Houston. But thank you very much to Dr. Henry Mentz. Hopefully not the last time we have him on the show. For now, though, let's head over to the 5:30 news headlines.
Your ARN News
With Etihad Airways.